Silent watchers. The stars above Tellerus Prime burned silent and cold as the massive shadow eclipsed the system's central sun. The Caridian flagship Eternal Dominance drifted into position, its hull gleaming with the obsidian-like material known as void steel, impervious to most weapons in the known galaxy. Behind it, 300 warships moved in perfect formation, each bearing the crimson emblem of the Caridian Empire, a talon gripping the shattered planet. Admiral Vorex stood on the command bridge, his scaled fingers tracing the holographic display of their next conquest. The Tellurian civilization had put up more resistance than expected, but like all others before them, they had fallen. 57 species subjugated in under a decade, a record unmatched in galactic history. "Another victory for the Archives," said Commander Killax, his second in command. "The Emperor will be pleased." Vorex's lips formed what passed for a smile among his species. "The Caridian fleet remains undefeated because we leave nothing to chance. Our technology, our tactics, our will, all superior." A junior officer approached, head bowed in deference. "Admiral, we've intercepted communications from a previously uncontacted region. The species calls itself human." Vorex waved dismissively. "Another primitive race to add to our collection. Send a standard assessment team. Level 7 response only. They don't warrant our full attention." "There is something unusual, Admiral," the officer continued hesitantly. "They've established colonies across 17 systems, despite having primitive warp technology. Their central government appears loosely organized, yet they maintain unified defense protocols. Adaptable vermin spread too thin." Vorex concluded. "They'll be easier to break. Their primary world, a planet called Earth in an unremarkable system. Our scouts report minimal orbital defenses and an atmosphere suited to our biology." Vorex turned to stare at the galaxy map, his claw tapping a new destination. "After we process the Tellurian resources, set course for the nearest human colony. Let's see what these humans are made of." The colony world of New Eden received the message from Earth Command 18 hours before the Caridian scout vessels entered their system. Governor Helen Chen stood in the Planetary Defense Center, watching as her staff executed the evacuation protocols with practiced efficiency. 93% of civilians already in cryo-sleep aboard the evacuation ships, her security chief reported. Defense drones deployed in holding pattern. Ghost protocol active on all networks. Helen nodded, her expression betraying none of the anxiety she felt. "And the whisper beacon. Activated and confirmed received by Nexus Command. When the Caridians arrive, they'll find exactly what Earth wants them to see." Outside the reinforced windows, New Eden's capital city was already dark, its buildings empty, power systems running on minimal output to simulate normal function. To orbital scans, it would appear inhabited but vulnerable, exactly as planned. Helen checked her encrypted tablet one last time, reviewing the classified directives from Earth Command. The message was simple: show weakness, give ground, let them believe. "It's time," she said quietly. "Initiate Phase Omega and prepare final jump coordinates." As the Defense Center staff moved to their evacuation stations, Helen took one final look at the colony she had governed for 7 years. New Eden would fall today, but not in the way the Caridians expected. She pressed her palm against the console, activating her command override. "This is Governor Chen, authorizing Phantom Protocol. May we return when the shadows lift." 3 days later, Admiral Vorex stood in the ruins of New Eden's government complex, confusion evident in his rigid posture. The colony had fallen without resistance, in fact, with barely any population at all. His forces had secured a ghost town, finding automated systems running on loops and empty buildings with tables set for meals never eaten. "It's the 3rd colony we've taken," Kellex reported. "All the same pattern. By the time we arrive, most inhabitants have fled. Those remaining offer token resistance, then retreat. Cowards," Vorex spat. "They run rather than face honorable defeat." "Yes, But where are they running to? Our scouts find no evidence of major evacuation fleets. It's as if they simply disappear. Vorex's eyes narrowed. Something isn't right. No species surrenders valuable territory without fighting unless they have a strategy. He paced across the abandoned command center. Have we intercepted any meaningful transmissions from their government? Very little, Admiral. Their communications went silent shortly after our first scout ships were detected. What we have gathered suggests internal panic, perhaps political fragmentation, or deliberate misinformation. Vorex muttered. Double our advance speed. We take their Earth in one direct thrust before they can organize whatever defense they're planning. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session as reports of the Caridian advance spread across civilized space. Representatives from 36 spacefaring species gathered in the Great Hall on Centaurid Prime, their voices rising in panicked debate. Ambassador Genli of Earth sat quietly in the human delegation's modest booth, making occasional notes while the council members argued. Beside her, her aide looked increasingly uncomfortable as accusations flew across the chamber. The humans have doomed us all, bellowed the Praxian delegate, his tentacles writhing in agitation. They had drawn the Caridian fleet directly through the central trade routes. Where are your vaunted defense forces? Demanded another. You claim to be a capable military power, yet you abandon your colonies without resistance. Ambassador Genli finally stood, and the chamber gradually fell silent. Unlike most delegates who wore elaborate ceremonial garb, she was dressed in a simple gray diplomatic uniform, with only a small Earth emblem on the collar. The unified Earth government appreciates the Council's concern, she began, her voice calm but carrying throughout the hall. We have evacuated our civilian populations as any responsible government would. As for our military response, we are assessing the situation. Assessing? The Praxian's voice rose to a shriek. The Caridians have taken 7 of your worlds. Their fleet moves unopposed toward your homeworld. What is there to assess? A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Arcturian representative, an elder known for his wisdom, leaned forward. Ambassador, we have witnessed the fall of many civilizations to the Caridian advance. If Earth has developed some defense against their weaponry, the Council would benefit from this knowledge. Genli's expression remained neutral. Earth has not abandoned its responsibilities to galactic security. That is all I am authorized to say at this time. As she sat down, her aide whispered urgently, They think we're sacrificing ourselves to buy them time. Or worse, that we've made some secret deal with the Caridians. Let them think what they want. Genli replied softly. What matters is what the Caridians believe. Later, as the session adjourned with no resolution, the Arcturian elder approached her privately. I have studied human history, Ambassador. Your species has faced extinction multiple times on your own world and survived against overwhelming odds. Genli met his gaze but said nothing. The Caridians believe themselves invincible because no one has proven otherwise, he continued. They expect direct confrontation, armies meeting in space, planetary sieges, conventional warfare. He paused. But humans rarely fight as expected, do they? For the first time, a hint of a smile touched the ambassador's lips. Good evening, Elder. May you live to see interesting times. Deep within the asteroid belt of an unremarkable dwarf star system, designated only as XB 722 on stellar charts, something impossible was happening. Inside the hollowed-out core of a metallic asteroid 50 kilometers in diameter, Admiral Y. Chen of the Earth Defense Force watched as the largest human battle fleet ever assembled prepared in absolute silence. The command center of what was codenamed Nexus floated in the center of the asteroid's cavernous interior, surrounded by hundreds of ships of varying sizes, from tiny stealth fighters to massive carriers. None bore external lights or identifiable markings. All were painted with the same light-absorbing material that made them nearly invisible even when looking directly at them. Status report, Admiral Chen requested. his voice low despite the secure environment. Commander Erica Santos stepped forward, her holopad projecting the latest intelligence. The Caridian main fleet has changed course, Admiral. They're bypassing the outer colonies and making directly for Earth. Estimated arrival, 72 hours. And Project Umbra. Final integration complete on all designated vessels. The technology has been successfully deployed to our distributed defense nodes. Whisper network is stable. Admiral Chen nodded, his eyes scanning the fleet that represented humanity's true response to the Caridian threat. For over a decade, Earth had presented itself to the galactic community as a modest power. Technologically competent but unexceptional. Militarily capable but not dominant. It was a carefully crafted image, a veil pulled over humanity's real capabilities. They expect us to fight conventionally, Chen said, echoing the private assessment that had guided Earth's strategy from the beginning. Line our ships up against theirs. Trade blow for blow until the stronger force prevails. And when we don't? Asked Santos. Chen turned to the main view screen, where a simulation showed the Caridian fleet formation. Powerful, organized, but utterly predictable. When we don't, they'll discover that invincibility is merely a failure of imagination. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. Throughout the hollow asteroid, on every ship, and at every station, crews paused to listen. This is Admiral Chen. Operation Shadowfall is now active. All units proceed to Phase 1 deployment coordinates. Combat protocols are in effect. He paused. The Caridians believe their fleet is invincible because they've never faced an enemy who truly understood them. They expect a battle. We will not give them one. As the transmission ended, the great hangar doors of Nexus began to open, revealing the star-filled void beyond. One by one, the shadow ships of humanity's hidden fleet glided into space, their dark hulls disappearing against the blackness almost immediately. Earth would not fall. The Caridians were about to learn that true strength lay not in the ships you could see, but in the enemies you never knew were there. As the Caridian Armada entered the Sol system, Admiral Vorex felt the first stirrings of unease. The system's outer defensive platforms had been abandoned. The expected minefields never materialized. Even the gas giant outposts, ideal defensive positions, stood empty and powered down. No resistance at all, Kellax observed. It's as if they've given up without a fight. No, Vorex replied, his instincts screaming a warning he couldn't quite articulate. They're here, watching. Our sensors show nothing except their orbital habitats and a small defensive fleet near their homeworld. Vorex stared at the tactical display, searching for any sign of the trap he increasingly believed awaited them. Maintain formation. Full scan protocols. Approach Earth with caution. As the Eternal Dominance led the Caridian fleet past the orbit of Mars, a small alert chimed on a secondary console. The communications officer quickly investigated. Admiral, we've detected a transmission. It's being broadcast from Earth on all frequencies. On screen, Vorex commanded. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a human in what appeared to be a military uniform. The human looked directly into the camera, expression calm and resolute. To the commander of the Caridian fleet, I am General Diana Reyes of Earth Defense Command. We have observed your advance through our territory. We have studied your tactics, your technology, and your assumptions. Vorex leaned forward, claws gripping the edge of his command station. You believe your fleet is invincible. We invite you to test that belief. The human's eyes seemed to look directly at Vorex. We will not meet you in open space. We will not line up our ships against yours. That is not our way. The transmission cut off abruptly. Vorex turned to his tactical officer. Meaning? Before the officer could respond, a new alert sounded, this one more urgent. Admiral, we've lost contact with our rear guard vessels. What? How many? 5 ships. No, 7. They're simply not responding. Vorex felt a cold sensation spreading through his body. Full combat alert. Deploy screening formation. But as klaxons blared throughout the eternal dominance, the truth was already becoming clear. The humans hadn't fled in fear. They hadn't given up. They had been waiting. And now, the Shadow War had begun. Shadows unveiled. Panic was not an emotion Admiral Vorex had ever experienced. Until now. All around his flagship, the previously immaculate formation of the Caridian Armada was breaking apart. Ship after ship reported system failures, communication blackouts, or simply went silent entirely. Status report, he demanded, his voice rising above the chaos on the bridge. Commander Kellax was coordinating multiple emergency channels. 17 vessels now unresponsive. Admiral, 3 destroyer-class ships report complete system failures. The Hunter's Glory is registering. Impossible energy readings before losing contact. Impossible how? Their power core showed no anomalies, then suddenly registered at 300% capacity before failing. That's not physically possible with our technology. Vorex slammed his fist against the command console. Deploy all scout vessels. Find whatever is attacking us. But the scouts found nothing. No enemy ships appeared on sensors. No weapons fire was detected. The Caridian vessels were simply failing, as if struck by some invisible force. This makes no sense, Kellax muttered, reviewing the tactical display. It's as if they're being attacked by ghosts. A junior officer approached tentatively. Admiral, we've analyzed the pattern of ship failures. They're not random. Each disabled vessel was on the outer perimeter of our formation, working inward in a spiral pattern. They're hurting us, Vorex realized. Like prey animals. The thought sent a chill through his body. In all the Caridians' conquests, they had always been the predators. The main communications array suddenly activated without command input. On every screen throughout the fleet, a simple message appeared. You brought an invasion fleet. We brought something else. Aboard the stealth destroyer UES Spectre, Captain Sofia Rodriguez watched the Caridian fleet's confusion with grim satisfaction. Her ship glided between 2 massive Caridian cruisers, completely invisible to their sensors thanks to Project Umbra's revolutionary technology. Target acquired, her tactical officer reported quietly, though there was no risk of being overheard in the vacuum of space. Deploying Siren to the engine section. Rodriguez nodded. Proceed. A small autonomous drone detached from the Spectre's hull, its matte black surface absorbing all light as it maneuvered toward the Caridian vessel. Upon reaching the target ship's engine housing, it attached itself and became virtually indistinguishable from the hull. Siren in position. System infiltration beginning. Unlike conventional warfare with its explosive weaponry and heroic battles, this was humanity's true approach to interstellar conflict. Precise, invisible, and devastatingly effective. The Siren, system infiltration, and remote exploitation node. Devices were humanity's masterwork, combining advanced AI with nanoscale machinery that could interface with any known technology. 30 seconds to complete system compromise. The tactical officer counted down. Rodriguez opened a channel to Nexus Command. This is Spectre. Parasite deployment successful on target Delta 17. Moving to next objective. As her ship silently pulled away, the Caridian cruiser's lights flickered momentarily before stabilizing. To its crew, nothing would seem amiss, yet. But the Siren was already deep in their systems, rewriting code, creating subtle malfunctions, and preparing for the moment when Admiral Chen would give the command to activate all the parasites simultaneously. Remember our doctrine, Rodriguez told her crew as they moved toward their next target. The best victory isn't the one where you defeat your enemy. It's the one where your enemy never even realizes they're fighting. In the Galactic Council chambers, the emergency session had devolved into near chaos. Reports were filtering in of strange occurrences throughout the Caridian fleet. Their legendary formation was breaking down. Ships were drifting out of position. Communications were becoming erratic. What's happening? demanded the Praxian delegate. Has Earth deployed some new weapon system? Ambassador Genlai remained as composed as ever. I have no detailed information about current military operations. Lies, shouted another delegate. Your ships must be out there. Where are they hiding? The Arcturian elder raised his hand, bringing a momentary pause to the shouting. Perhaps the question isn't where the human ships are, but what kind of ships they are. All eyes turned to Genlai, who simply folded her hands on the table before her. For a century, the galaxy has judged humanity by what we've shown you: our modest colonies, our conventional ships, our seemingly limited technology. For the first time, she allowed a small smile. Did it never occur to any of you to ask what we weren't showing? Admiral Vorex had ordered his fleet to consolidate, pulling back from Earth's orbit into a defensive sphere. Of his original 300 ships, 47 were now completely disabled, drifting lifelessly through space. Dozens more reported critical malfunctions in weapons, propulsion, or life support systems. Still no enemy vessels on scanners. Kelax reported, his voice tight with stress. We've deployed all available countermeasures against stealth technology. They must have ships, Vorex insisted. No weapon has this range otherwise. A new alert sounded on the bridge. The tactical officer looked up in alarm. Admiral, we're detecting energy buildup within our own fleet. Multiple vessels are showing power surges in their core systems. Impossible. Order immediate core shutdown on affected vessels. They're not responding to commands, sir. It's as if their systems are being controlled remotely. Vorex stared at the tactical display in growing horror as red warning indicators spread across his fleet like a disease. Evacuate those ships. Get the crews out now. But it was already too late. Across the formation, Caridian vessels began powering down, their lights extinguishing one by one until they were dark silhouettes against the stars. Not destroyed, simply rendered inert, their advanced technology turned against them. On the main view screen, a new transmission appeared. This time, it showed a different human, older, wearing the insignia of high military command. Admiral Vorex of the Caridian Empire. I am Admiral Y. Chen of Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is now under our control. Your weapons systems have been disabled. Your engines are locked. Your communications are monitored. Vorex's scales flared in rage and disbelief. How? How is this possible? Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral. For generations, the Caridians have relied on the same strategy: overwhelming force, superior numbers, and the fear they inspire. You believe yourselves invincible because no one had found a way to defeat your fleet in direct combat. The human's eyes narrowed slightly. We never intended to try. The truth that unfolded over the next hours shattered everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. For decades, Earth had maintained a carefully crafted facade, presenting itself as a minor power while secretly developing technologies far beyond anything the galactic community had imagined. Project Umbra wasn't just stealth technology. It was a comprehensive approach to warfare that rendered traditional space battles obsolete. The human ships didn't need to destroy the Caridian vessels. They simply took control of them, turning their own systems against them with surgical precision. At Proxima Station, a neutral trading post near the edge of human space, Admiral Chen met with Admiral Vorex for the formal surrender. The massive Caridian stood rigid with humiliation as Chen laid out the terms. Your fleet will be allowed to return to Caridian space, minus its weapons capabilities. Your empire will withdraw from all occupied territories and recognize the sovereignty of all species you have subjugated. And if we refuse? Vorex asked, though there was little force behind the question. Chen's expression didn't change. Then we demonstrate what would have happened if we had chosen to destroy your fleet rather than disable it. How? Vorex demanded, his composure finally breaking. How did you do this? We saw no ships, no weapons. Chen considered the question for a moment before answering. When humanity first ventured into space, we encountered predators that nearly destroyed us. We learned then that survival doesn't always go to the strongest or most aggressive species. It goes to the most adaptable. He gestured to a view screen showing the disabled Caridian fleet. Your ships are powerful, yes, but they're also obvious, predictable. We built our defenses not around matching your strength, but rendering it irrelevant. The ghost colonies, Vorex realized. The strategic retreats. You were studying us. Every abandoned colony was a trap, filled with passive sensors that recorded your tactics, your technology, your vulnerabilities. Every retreat was calculated to reinforce your overconfidence. Chen's voice remained even matter-of-fact. By the time you reached Earth, we knew more about your ships than your own engineers. Word spread quickly throughout the galaxy. The invincible Caridian fleet had been defeated, not in glorious battle, but with quiet, devastating efficiency. The humans had revealed themselves to be not just another spacefaring species, but something altogether different. Shadows among the stars, watchers who had hidden their true capabilities for generations. In the council chambers, Ambassador Genlai addressed the stunned delegates. Earth has no interest in replacing the Caridian Empire as a galactic power. We desire neither territory nor tribute. She paused, looking around the chamber. But let our actions serve as a reminder. Appearances can be deceiving, and true strength is not always visible. The Arcturian elder spoke into the silence that followed. Why reveal yourselves now? Why not maintain your disguise? Zhenlei's expression softened slightly. Because the galaxy needs stability, not fear. The Caridians ruled through terror and the belief that they couldn't be stopped. We've broken that belief. Now we all have an opportunity to build something better. And if another empire rises, asked the Praxian, considerably more subdued than before, then they will find, as the Caridians did, that humanity is watching. Her voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath the words. Always watching. 6 months later, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of Nexus, the asteroid base that had housed humanity's shadow fleet. Beside him, Captain Rodriguez of the Spectre observed as technicians prepared the facility for its next phase. The Council's still trying to understand how we developed Umbra technology without anyone knowing, Rodriguez remarked. Chen smiled slightly. They're looking for a single breakthrough, some miraculous discovery. They don't understand that it wasn't one technology, but a philosophy. Centuries of human history learning to fight asymmetrically, to use an enemy's strength against them. Below them, engineers were installing new systems throughout the hollowed asteroid. Not weapons this time, but research laboratories, diplomatic quarters, cultural archives. Will we ever show them everything? Rodriguez asked. Chen considered this. No, some shadows should remain. But enough light to guide, perhaps. Across the galaxy, the former Caridian subject worlds were establishing new governments. Trade routes were reopening. Species that had lived under occupation for generations were rediscovering freedom. And through it all, Earth's shadow ships maintained their silent patrols, visible now, but no less vigilant. The Caridians themselves had withdrawn to their home systems, their military reorganized under strict limitations. Reports suggested their society was undergoing significant internal reforms, the shock of defeat forcing them to reconsider centuries of imperial doctrine. They called their fleet Invincible, Rodriguez said quietly. I wonder if they understand even now what really happened. Chen shook his head. Invincibility is an illusion. The truly strong don't need to claim it. He turned away from the viewport, facing the future that humanity had shaped through patience, foresight, and the willingness to wait in the shadows until the perfect moment. The Caridians brought an Armada to instill fear, he said. We brought something much more powerful. What's that, sir? Understanding. Chen smiled. And in the end, that made all the difference. In the void between stars, the UES Spectre glided silently on patrol, one of dozens of shadow ships now openly acknowledged, yet still largely misunderstood by the wider galaxy. On its bridge, A new captain addressed her crew as they prepared to depart Earth orbit. For generations, humanity hid its strength, watching from the darkness as empires rose and fell. The shadow war against the Caridians revealed some of what we are capable of, but not all. She gazed at the stars visible through the viewscreen, countless worlds where life flourished and civilizations evolved, each with their own dreams and dangers. Our mission remains what it has always been, to stand between the darkness and the light, to watch for threats that others cannot see, and to remind any who would rule through fear that true power often lies in what remains unseen. The Spectre accelerated smoothly, its advanced engines leaving no trace, its hull absorbing all light. To any observer, it would appear as nothing more than another shadow among countless others in the endless night of space, undetectable, unknown, but ever-present. Humanity had shown the galaxy that the strongest force wasn't an invincible fleet or unstoppable weapons. It was the quiet determination of a species that had learned, through countless struggles on their homeworld and beyond, that survival often depends not on being the strongest, but on being the most patient, the most adaptive, and sometimes, the most invisible. The Caridian fleet had been defeated not because humans had built bigger ships or more powerful weapons, but because they had understood a fundamental truth that had eluded their enemies. True strength lies not in what you show the world, but in what you keep hidden until the perfect moment. And in that revelation, the galaxy found both comfort and unease. For if the humans had concealed so much for so long, what other secrets might they still keep in the shadows?